The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 2. Castle. Chapter 23. "I can't give it to you," Tal finally said. "Not yet." He met Milla's gaze, but saw no sign there of what she would do. Surely she wouldn't try to take the stone by force. His shadow guard felt his tension and stood up beside him, stretching into the shape of a small borzog. Ebbet's spirit shadow watched from the door, but rose up on all four legs and tensed to spring.
"What's all this fuss?" asked Ebbet. "Give me that sunstone, Tal." "This is my business, Uncle,"
Tal snapped. It was the first time he had ever spoken in such a way to a full adult chosen. If he had done it in public, he would have earned illuminance from everyone around.
"Give it to me,"
Ebbet repeated. He held out his bony hand. His spirit shadow padded over and stood next to Tal, and tilted its head to look at him.
"Whose side are you on?"
Tal asked. He took off the ring and angrily put it in Ebbet's hand. Tears of rage were forming in his eyes, but there was nothing he could do. If Ebbet wanted to take the sunstone and give it to Milla, Tal would just have to put up with it. He could climb another tower, the orange one, and do a better job of stealing one. He would steal 6 sunstones. Ebbet didn't hand the sunstone to Milla. He held it up to his eye and flashed a rainbow of light at it from his own sunstone. Then he threw it up in the air, and a sharp white beam lanced out at it from the ring on his right hand. There was a spray of sparks, and the old man caught the ring again. Tal blinked, and then he saw that Ebbet was holding 2 rings now. The old one had been perfectly sliced in half. So had the sunstone.
"One each,"
said Ebbet, handing Tal and Milla smaller but still perfectly functioning sunstones, judging from the glow in the depths of each stone. "Is it strong enough to be a primary?" asked Tal as he slid the thinner ring on his finger. He'd had no idea that sunstones could be split.
"Easily," said Ebbet, sniffing. "That's a strong stone. One of the originals, I'd say. Not one of these modern imitations, with hardly 10 years' sunlight in them. That's a 3 or 4 century stone. Besides, it was 2 stones to start with. Someone put them together long ago, when frogs still had legs."
"You can put sunstones together?" asked Tal. Why hadn't he been taught any of the sunstone lore? He would be finished at the lectorium in a month, and he knew there were no more classes on sunstones. Perhaps the lectors didn't know themselves? Ebbet was an eccentric, but Tal had always known that he was a very learned one. He hadn't suspected that this learning would include the secret ways of the castle, or the nature of sunstones, or anything like that. "The Farvaders thank you," said Milla. This time she did knock her knuckles together for Tal as well as Ebbet. "Now, how do I return to the heating tunnels?"
"Tricky," said Ebbet.
"They'll be looking for Tal now, and for you soon, Milla.
What with spirit shadows searching you out, it could be very hard to get back down."
"Searching us out?" asked Milla. "How? Like a rackhound? By smell?"
"Rackhounds?"
asked Ebbet, brightening. "What might they be?" "Spirit shadows searching," interrupted Tal, to hasten the old man along. He glanced nervously at the door.
"Oh, yes," agreed Ebbet. "Any of the spirit shadows that have touched you will remember the feel of your essence. They can sense that from quite a long way away. Very clever. I've had mine do it to track down friends. I wouldn't be surprised if they're already on their way."
"Well, let's not wait for them," urged Tal. Ebbet let out a sigh and looked back at the apparatus and the books. Tal steered him back to the capillary tunnel. Tal and Milla bombarded him with questions as they helped the old man up into the ceiling. "What do you mean, they sense us? How far can they do this sensing? Can anything stop them from sensing us?" After Ebbet was safely up in the capillary tunnel, Tal suddenly stopped asking questions and said, "Ebbet, the insect repellent, for Milla." Milla didn't ask what the yellow muck was, but she smeared it on immediately. She had just finished her face when the door to the Hall of Nightmares suddenly opened, letting in a rush of light. Fashnik stood there, his spirit shadow behind him, and 2 other spirit shadows at his side. He gaped at the open globe, then saw Milla leaping up into what he thought was a solid ceiling. "Seize her!" he roared. But he stepped back himself. He had been frightened by Milla and the crones in her dream. Now she had escaped from the crystal globe without a sunstone. She was clearly an even more dangerous and powerful an enemy than he'd thought. Ebbet sealed the hatch behind them, then put his sunstone down the front of his shirt. It was followed by his spirit shadow, which shrank down and curled around it. Tal and his shadow guard did the same thing. Milla's stone still shone from her pocket until Tal dimmed it for her. In total darkness, they would be safe from the pursuing spirit shadows, who needed light to be able to do anything.
"Hold my leg," whispered Ebbet. "Milla, hold Tal's."
Clutching onto one another, they began to crawl. Tal had to fight the urge to get his sunstone out. It was just like the veil when he'd passed through it. The darkness seemed to press on him physically, and he found it hard to breathe. It got worse and worse, until he was panting very quickly and clutching Ebbet's foot so hard that the old man yelped in pain. Tal was even more afraid because he wasn't sure that Ebbet knew where he was going. They could be crawling anywhere, to the lair of the water spiders, thousands of them, boiling over a great pit of water spiders, which would find that square of skin that Tal had missed putting repellent on, and their fangs would... There was something on Tal's leg. It had to be a water spider. It had to be. Or maybe it was Milla, holding on. He wanted to kick at it and roll over, but maybe it was Milla, and he couldn't breathe, and... Ebbet stopped.
"We should be far enough away," he whispered. "I'm going to try a little light."
Tal almost sobbed with relief, but he couldn't help himself craning his head back to be ready when the light came. Though he had no idea what he'd do if he looked back and found himself staring into the multifaceted eyes and piercing fangs of a water spider. The light came. There was only Milla, holding on to Tal's leg. There were no water spiders. Tal's expression must have given him away, because Milla quickly ran her fingers across Tal's knee, like a spider. He flinched, and Milla laughed. It was only the second time Tal had heard Milla laugh.
"There was a spider," said Milla. "It had eyes like ice crystals, but with a light inside, not a reflection. It waved its legs at me, but did not move."
"Where?" croaked Tal, his throat suddenly very, very dry.
"Back in the cross tunnel," said Milla, pointing at an intersection that was far too close for Tal's liking. "But there was nothing to fear. I would have slain it if it approached." "They are hard to kill," warned Ebbet. "We had best get on before the repellent wears off." "Where?" asked Milla.
Tal looked back at Ebbet. The old man shrugged and smiled. The dreamy smile. "If the spirit shadows can sense us," Tal said, "it's going to be hard to hide anywhere, and almost impossible to get you down to the underfolk levels. Even if we could make it there, I don't know where Crow and his friends found us."
"I'd find it," said Milla. "But I believe you. If we cannot go there yet, where can we go?"
"We have to let the Empress know that Sushin is doing things illegally in her name, and with her guards," said Tal. "Once she knows, she'll put everything right." He hesitated, then added, "But I probably wouldn't be able to get to the Empress either, unless these capillaries go up to Violet."
"They do," replied Ebbet, "but they get ever so narrow and ever so small, almost like they're not there at all."
"But Milla might be able to use them to get down farther, down to the underfolk levels," said Tal.
No, Ebbet shook his head. "The water spiders spin their webs below Red 7, all part of the plan, you see, to catch what shouldn't get past. We were once so very clever."
"Can't go up, can't go down, can't see my mother, can't go anywhere normal," said Tal as he counted each possibility on his fingers. Then he made a fist and struck it into the palm of his other hand. "There must be somewhere we can go."
"Einir," said Ebbet. "I told you. It's almost time for you to get a spirit shadow anyway, and everyone, needs the codex. The spirit shadows won't be able to sniff you out here if you're there."
Tal thought about this for a good minute. "It's forbidden to go to Einir before the day of Ascension," he pointed out.
"That's only because it's safer when all the Chosen are there together," said Ebbet. "And it wasn't always forbidden. I've been over by myself, several times."
Tal thought about that a bit longer. He didn't seem to have a lot of choice. If we go, what will happen to our bodies? He asked finally. We couldn't leave them here. We might be gone for weeks. What is Einir? Asked Milla suddenly. Why would we leave our bodies? Einir is the spirit world, Tal explained shortly. It is another land which the chosen can enter. We leave our bodies here and our spirits go there. Ah, like a dream, said Milla. No, said Tal. It is real, but different. If you have the strength and a powerful sunstone, you can take things there and bring them back. It's a place of magic. The seeds that sunstones grow from come from Einir. So do spirit shadows. The source of shadow, Milla whispered. Perhaps I should see this, to report to the crones. We can't go unless our bodies are safe, said Tal, so it's pointless thinking about it. The mausoleum, said Ebbet suddenly. A good place for bodies, dead or alive.